me, how's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast Rolling Stone Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are all sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom competing needs. Get $100 off your entire code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Link to the podcast below. Now let's go to our featured presentation. I have seen the growth of this platform pretty much since its inception due to a random Facebook friend request. I'm excited to have it. We have Danny from BSBTV, Blood, Sweat, and Beers TV. What this is the first ever global music TV and A&R platform on Twitch. We talk about the inception of it, the importance of connecting so many people in the music industry that can make things happen for so many younger bands forward. Gap, and you know what? Just how great this platform is. We share some of the successes that are there and exactly how you and your band and your project and your music can get featured on BSB TV as much as possible. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. This episode right here is a little different, but also a little bit of a piece of just happiness for me because this man right here created something with one of his business partners, and I've been basically watching this grow ever since its inception based on some random Facebook friend requests that I've been able to watch this continue to grow, see this continue to jump up by building the first ever global music TV and A&R platform that helps artists interact in real time with top music execs, industry professionals, and veteran musicians who have the power to elevate someone's career. These guys are doing the most for so many new bands and getting them out there in front of people that can actually make their dreams come true. It is more admirable than anything I have ever seen in the music industry up to this point, and I want to make sure you guys know about it. So please welcome Danny from BSB TV to the podcast. So Danny, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's really an honor to be here, and honestly, thank you for the kind words about the platform. Really appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've been watching this ever since, I still remember you posting about it like all the time because of some, again, random friend request. Don't remember how it happened, but it's just constantly seeing the posts of, this is what we're doing. This is what's going on. Seeing the guests you bring on, the different people from the music industry, different topic music execs, industry professionals, A&R people, to get everybody not only into the artists that are coming up, but also you guys have some great partners too that I was looking through. Four Chord Music Festival, Ghost Killer Entertainment, Manic Cat Records, people who I've worked with before as well. So, yeah. I mean, it's just great to see somebody in a great platform to help so many new artists get an opportunity to get themselves in front of people that can help make their dreams come true.
Honestly, that means the world. So thank you. Really, really appreciate that.
You are very welcome. Well, I want to start out by asking you this question specifically because starting an idea like this and creating a company or creating a piece of a platform that is this, it doesn't happen overnight. And I got to know, What was the inspiration behind this and how did this whole entire thing get started?
So I guess you could say like the original kind of like idea and intent behind it, like we had no idea that it was going to turn into this like A&R mechanism that it has. When it started, it literally was just off of the back of barroom talk. I was doing a favor for one of my friends who was over from the States, Thomas Nicholas. He was doing a tour over here in the UK. And he needed like a Q&A podcast like section done for one of the evenings of his tour. And so I got my friend Ben Pritchard, who is now my business partner, and we both went along because we were both pretty comfortable talking on mic and on camera, and we thought, well, what the hell, let's see how this goes. I already had this kind of idea for like Blood, Sweat and Beers in my head. It was going to be some kind of online platform. Really, that was it, just kind of very, very vague basics. But then at the end of the night, like the Q&A had gone really well. We realized we had, like Ben and I had a good rapport with one another, and like lots of banter. Like we just had a really good time. And we were like, well, what is it in the music industry at the moment that we feel is missing? And this just came from barroom talk. Like we were just sitting there shooting the shit. And we suddenly started thinking about what wasn't in the industry when we both had like some of our old projects and bands. And one of the things that we sort of touched upon was that it was really cool if you were an artist or in a band, to get featured on like MTV or Alternative Press or Kerrang TV or Scuzz or any of those kind of channels. Like it's a really, really cool accolade to get. But the one thing that like I felt was missing from that kind of equation was the real time feedback from the people actually watching. So
Mhm.
the viewers sitting at home watching the channel, like what do they think? Because they're the demographic. They're the people who are going to go and buy the records. They're the people who are going to, potentially invest in your career. And so as cool as it is to obviously have it on the channel and then be able to use that in your EPK and talk about it, it was kind of like, well, but what are the people who are listening to this or watching this thinking? And that's kind of where the initial idea grew from.
That is, again, interesting and admirable as ever, because coming from barroom talk, of course, there's so many ideas that come up from a night at the bar with your friends or some random person. Heck, I ended up having one of my girlfriend's like sisters, her significant other. Him and I were talking, and we ended up coming up with an idea for something just based on us driving to go get ice cream one day. That was it. So
Perfect.
you have crazy moments like that, but it depends upon, one, is it a moment that excites you, and two, is it something that you can capitalize on, that you can make happen. So for you and Ben to not only think about how big back in the day, getting on MTV was, or getting on any of those platforms was for certain artists, where today the access to music is so incredibly vast between YouTube, all the different streaming services. So you have access to it, but how do you stand out in that moment? And how do you make that connection in real time, not only between people that are in the music industry, but people that are listening as well? Back in the day with, MTV, they play a music video from a new band, and the only way if it was, a successful thing or not on feedback was if people end up going out and buying the record, or as time went on,
Yep.
people bought the single off of, iTunes. Now it's completely different, especially you guys being able to use Twitch and get that instant reaction from so many viewers right then and there. You guys can give your instant reactions, which you have done. Whoever you bring on as a guest can give their instant reaction as well. And if it's an artist too, that can add a lot more of a powerhouse moment to a younger artist to say, hey, we made this song and this was X person's reaction to that.
Yep. That's exactly it. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, like Ben and I, just two idiots on the internet who happened to build this platform. But the people who join us on the show, we pick either like legacy musicians, or we'll get like a festival organizer or a record label executive. And the premise and the idea is basically that it's anybody from the music industry who has potentially got the ability or the power to try and elevate that artist's career trajectory in some way or another. Now, that could range from something as simple as literally just following them on social media, giving their Spotify a follow, right the way up to potentially offering them a record deal or a placement on, on a festival, which is obviously the huge side. But it was kind of that, and then everything in between, because then also you've got the ability to clip, from Twitch, you can clip any portion of that stream. So if the artist is, the special guest is saying something about your track that you then want to clip and put on your socials, you can do that. You can use those quotes in your EPK. We just wanted to create like lots of these different little avenues that would all kind of circle back into one another and give the artist as much value as possible, really. And I got to give a shout out to TuneCore, like very, very early on as well, because way before BSB, before the barroom talk, they did a thing when I was in one of my old projects where you could basically, you had a new release coming out and you could send it to like 20 to 30 people as a test market thing. And it was completely random. You had no idea who they were. But you would get like 20 to 30 pieces of written feedback come back from anyone, like all over the globe, anywhere in the world. And I just remember thinking that was so cool. And there was one of our tracks we did that with, and then we were getting like comparisons to Green Day and like 90s stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that always stuck with me from that point on. And I guess you could say that's like a piece of the catalyst that then obviously came up in this bar and talk, because it was there at the back of my mind somewhere. And I realized that there was this opportunity to create a like living, breathing, live streaming on air platform. And the other side of it as well is, we grew up with MTV, we grew up with Scuzz and P Rock and channels like that. Um, and it was a really cool thing because you could literally like call your friends up after you've watched something and talk to them about it because you all watched it together in real time. And nowadays, you've got all the magic of social media. You've got TikTok, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram. Everything is very personalized, like Netflix as well. Everything is like personalized down to a T. But I think the magic of like shared discovery and like watching things together was lost. And so one of our other goals was, okay, well, with BSBTV, can we make it that this is like a scheduled thing? So this is like the days of cable TV where people can tune in at the same time every week, every day, and they know what they're going to get because we have like a full like TV structure and schedule. And we wanted to bring that back. And I guess for the next gen to have the experience that we did.
I think you also did it at the perfect time too. As I think about this, let me explain why. So the platforms that would have been doing that prior, specifically we'll use MTV as the example. When they were doing this, again, this was back in the 80s and the 90s primarily, where you were able to, have that shared experience because people would go home after school or something and watch these music videos and be able to talk to their friends about it. So you had that initial conversation to be able to build up potential artists if you saw them for the first time and you got really intrigued by them. But as time went on throughout the 2000s, you saw a massive shift in how music was portrayed on TV. They went away from the music videos and they went full into reality shows, especially in 2009 with the premiere of Jersey Shore. But so many other platforms around there end up going away from that type of style of music video delivery because it was a lot easier to get music videos on YouTube and it was cheaper to go and put them out there instead of trying to get them posted on platforms. Maybe you have to pay for them. I don't know. But maybe that's a piece that ends up being in there. On top of that, people that are artists, not artists, but entities that ended up doing stuff like this, use Kerrang, you maybe use Loudwire, they maybe have gone in a different direction at that time, more of the publication side, maybe doing different things because there was no real platform to have that set up to bring this back and have that real-time feedback. But once Twitch streaming really got going or any type of online streaming like that, the amount of time between when these platforms were doing that and the real like pop off of a platform like Twitch, that time was so vast in between that all their business ended up focusing on different avenues that would make them more money. So they weren't interested in anything with stream. They weren't interested in anything with Twitch, where you guys came in and really took the bull by the horns with that and created something that they could have created maybe 10 years ago, but have no interest in doing. But it's that thing that's going to give that real-time feedback. It's going to create that shared experience. So many people say they want the old MTV back. And in a way, you guys are doing it in an incredible way. People have that shared experience. They can go back and still have that experience on Twitch by watching the streams, back after they've already been, done live. But you can have that live experience. You can have the artist connection. You can have the A&R connection. You can have the record executive connection to all of this. You create that. And it's, again, that same exact experience that people had been craving for so long, just in a much more modern take.
100%. And, I really appreciate that. The thing is, we want to create the TV experience. That's exactly what we want to give people. We want you to be able to enjoy this from the comfort of your living room. Like, if you're on the way home from work, you can put the audio version of it on and have it playing in your car. If you're like washing up or you're doing chores, you can have it on in the background. Like it fits a whole kind of like multitude of situations. But ultimately it was in my head, I guess the target demographic was people who get to the end of the day, they sit down on their couch, they switch the TV on, and we wanted to give that full TV experience, as many different like interactive features as we could give. So we've got things like, for example, we have like our like mobile phone, our like cell phone on screen, which the Twitch chat now appears in. Like previously it would just appear on the screen like a normal Twitch chat and it goes up and down, but we actually went away and we were like, okay, well, let's code in a cell phone that appears on the screen, and so when people are messaging in, it's text messages going up and down. We've got things that pop up like Beavis and Butthead with random quotes. We've got air horns, we've got drums, we've got all of these different, and that for me is like what I grew up on as like the live TV experience or like cable TV. When I think back to even watching like, Breakfast TV, like Anton Deck on SMTV Live. And it was all of those like really entertaining interactive features. And that's what we wanted to give. We didn't just want to give the experience itself, but we wanted to make it as interactive as it could be, and make sure that when people are commenting, and if they've got something they want to say in the chat and ask the guest, then we're gonna flag that up. We're gonna talk about it, because I see it time and time again, and I'm guilty of it in the past myself, where you're so focused on what you're doing that the chat almost goes by the by. But you don't realize in that moment how special you can make that person feel. And if you flag that up to somebody, to them, who is an idol or someone in the industry they really look up to, then you've just made their entire week. And I didn't realize the like emphasis, I guess, and the power of that, until we started doing BSB, and then I started to see it for myself. Like I say, I've been guilty of doing the opposite in the past, but this has really like opened my eyes.
And not only, being guilty of it in the past, the biggest key of it is you took a look at, when it came to the chat, you took a look at how just asking the questions from the chat to the guest, whether it is someone that's in music or an artist specifically, that can make that person's day. That can make that person's week. And it makes that person feel even more connected to the music and to the band that, or the artist that they absolutely care for and want to continue to listen to. It creates moments. That's kind of the business you guys are in right now with this. You're creating moments for people to get into new music, moments for the audience to be able to connect with the guests that you have on there. And again, of course, listen to new music. You're creating moments for the guests to get to discover new music, get to create those moments for people, and potentially help out artists that submit music to your platform a leg up, or just a kind of kick in the ass in the right direction of making their dreams come true. There are plenty of other places out there and plenty of other ideas out there in the music world, in the music industry, online, that are trying to do stuff, that help promote artists. I myself am doing it as well, with doing podcasts and talking to artists, getting deep into just conversation with them like we are doing right now. I do it twice a week. There are plenty of other people that have podcasts too that go around this. But again, you guys are creating those moments like what MTV had done back in the 80s and 90s, but in a much more consistent way for 2020s and 2025, but in a way that is so interactive that people want to go and be a part of this, especially as their favorite artists end up appearing on the show.
Exactly. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. And, and to be honest with you, it's like way before BSB, like throughout my career, I've always been very like networking focused, biz dev focused. And I guess I got to a point in my life where I was like, I'd done the whole corporate thing for a while. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I really enjoy this aspect of my job every time. It doesn't matter what company I'm working for. I really enjoy being involved in the networking, connections, business development, all of that kind of stuff. And it was like, how can I take that and apply that to my love and passion for the music industry? And I realized that there was a way to do that with BSB, which then, allowed me to, reach out to certain guests within the industry, get them onto the show, and for us to start trying to create those opportunities, like you said, and for me, it was all about the value. It was about not just connecting them with that guest, but it was also about how much can we possibly give here, like obviously without completely overstretching ourselves and setting a rod for our own back that we're not going to be able to keep up with in the future. How much can we do that is going to provide a pillar of support to these artists? Like, can we create reels after we've done a show? Can we, create an industry quote graphic, which we've now, we're starting to roll out. We've got BSBTV Plus, which runs right now from our website, but we're trying to get into talks with like Hulu and Roku and some other services like that to roll it out over there. And BSBTV Plus is basically, I guess, like the I guess our version of like MTV, but the unsigned bands and artist version. And that's constantly rolling around with bands that have come through the BSB TV ecosystem. It runs, like I say, directly from our website. We also do have some ads from some of our partners on there. But whereas on, like MTV, for example, you might suddenly get an ad for fabric softener, which is completely unrelated to the music scene. We try and tailor it so that any of those ads that you get will be affiliated with, like our partners or anything they're doing, because they're labels, they're management agencies, they're businesses and services that a band or artist who's watching that channel is likely to either resonate with or potentially want to utilize. So we try and tailor that as best we can. But like that again, BSBTV Plus, it's like that was another pillar, or something that we could do that would then create that added value. And we think about it like literally every week. How much more are we able to add here without completely oversaturating it and getting in the way of our original mission? And I hope that we're doing that.
You guys are kind of taking the mindset of give, 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 and then ask, of giving as much as you possibly can in terms of value to the fans, the artists, and the guests that you have coming on. But then when all the ask is just, come and watch the show, come and enjoy the show, come and be a part of this. That's the simple ask, is just to enjoy, while you're giving as much value as possible to all of these people that are taking part in it. The fact if you guys are able to get BSB TV Plus on places like Hulu and Roku, and I'm curious about that, exactly how it's going to work. So is it going to be like a continuous channel where you're going to be able to watch different music videos from younger artists like we did in MTV back in the day? Or how is that going to all play out?
Yeah, so the way it works, like I say, directly off of the website at the moment, is it's in rotation. So it's constantly going around. Any band or artist can subscribe to that via our Patreon. We've set that a very, very low barrier to entry. It's literally £8 a month, and you get your music video added onto that rotation, which, like I say, right now it's hosted on our website, but we have the view to have it out on a lot of those different fast TV services. So then there's obviously a lot more potential like demographic exposure happening there when we get to that point. But even when we do that, Patreon price point isn't going to change. That'll be staying the same, because for us it's just about trying to get that out there as much as we possibly can. And like you said, it's a great shame that we have lost things like MTV. It's a great shame that we have lost things like Kerrang TV. So we're just, I guess, trying to, in the same way that Sad Summer came about when Warped Tour decided to call it a day, and filled a void that was left. Where I guess we're trying to do the same, but for the next gen at the moment.
There's something I need to highlight here. You said that, especially on Patreon, you're keeping it a very low barrier to entry for artists to get their music videos featured on BSB TV Plus and have them continuously be in the loop. You said it's £8 per month. That's £96 for the entire year. It's under £100 for the entire year for you to continuously be featured on BSB TV. Think about how insane of a value that is, because when it comes to trying to get trying to get a radio campaign or get any on, go for playlisting, marketing, or anything, it's going to cost so much more than that. Radio airplay, merchandising, whatever it might be. But £8 just a month just to continually have that going there. That you just, what are you going to do? Give up 2 cups of coffee a month and then that's it? Like, you got it covered.
That's, that was our thinking. And it was the same, like, to be completely transparent with you, like for BSB TV, the A&R side of the show, which is obviously our weekly showcases every Thursday. There's 2 routes to do that. We've got our free submissions queue. We usually see on average about 200 to 300 of those every week. And
Holy shit!
That's going up quite a lot of them, especially since we had like Josh from Sad Summer on a couple of weeks ago. Like, that has just been going through the roof, which is awesome, because Ben and I are just blown away week after week by how much talent there is. But we do also offer the priority route. We keep it like 50-50. And that is to bands and artists who want to utilize that. Now, we never push that on anyone. It is an option. It is a complete choice, but it is your way of completely guaranteeing that you will get onto that playlist in front of that guest. And that's £50. So, if you're a band of 5, that's £10 a band member. And then you are guaranteed to be in front of, say, 4 Chord Music, Sad Summer Festival, Anne Boleyn, Mayday Parade, etc. And for me, it was about trying to make that as low barrier to entry as we possibly could, whilst not crippling ourselves as a platform and a business, because we do obviously have overheads to take into consideration. We've got production. BSB TV Plus has a service that it runs in the background itself to keep it ticking over. We've got team members. There's a lot of costs that go into doing what we do. And it is not just like we can get this already in 24 hours. Like there's a lot that goes into the preparation of it, and we've got the graphics that go out, we've got reels that go out. There's obviously a lot of time investment in that as well. So it's about trying to make it as fair as we possibly can, whilst also making it as fair as we possibly can on our side as well, so that it's a joint ecosystem, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and you created a mission for this, you created an idea for this, and you want to be able to stick to that mission as this continues to grow. That's something that's admirable, because so many places, so many, we've seen it from corporate America, corporate world, we've seen it all over the world, where things start to grow and then the priorities change, or the mission or the goal changes, and then things completely turn upside down because that initial idea and that initial desire has been completely forgotten about. I want to ask about the free music submission, though, because you're saying you're getting 200, 300 song submissions every single week for whatever guests you're going to have on. How do you listen through all of these, and how do you qualify which ones are going to be going on the playlist for that week?
So there's a few of us who listen, because obviously if it was literally just down to me or one person, that would be, I think we'd maybe get like 3 or 4 seconds listening of each track. But there's a few of us, and what we tend to do is we'll jump to the middle of the track. We'll listen to approximately 10 to 15 seconds, and that's usually so that we can hear the hook, so that we can hear the production, the mastering, that kind of thing. And if all of that is there, that's how we do our quality control. We'll make sure we listen to it and we're like, okay, is this track broadcast worthy? Like, could we imagine this being played on? And it's a bad example, because obviously on BSB you can swear and use profanity and it's fine. But like Radio 1, for example, it would have to be that level of production standard to also get played on BSB. And we do that for everybody's benefit, because we also want artists who are thinking about submitting to feel like, oh, okay, well, it's worth our time and it's worth our while to do that. Which, I won't go too much into this, but I previously worked like a long time ago in a PR company who would just literally work with anybody who would lace their hands with silver, essentially, and that meant that they would work with bands who hadn't got any of their like production underhand or anything, and that puts off other artists who perhaps are a bit further along, or have worked on their sound for longer, or have got a producer in. It puts them off wanting to do something, and we certainly don't ever want to do that. So it's not about stopping. We don't want to stop people from being able to have access to it. We just want you to be at a point where you've got your track together, you've got that level of production there, that you're ready to put it in front of potentially a guest like Sad Summer Festival. We want we want you to have the best possible experience from that, and we obviously want the best chance of that then resonating and turning into a real world opportunity. Which, if you get something and it sounds like it's been recorded in a tin can, that's less likely to happen. I'm not saying it doesn't ever, but it's less likely.
But what makes sense about that too is by making sure that artists have the production style down and make sure that they have their sound down when they're submitting this stuff. Let's say that it gets played and someone from Sad Summerfest, say Peter from Manic Cat Records, maybe the people from Four Chord Music Festival, they love it and they really get behind it. And now that gives, as an artist, you the ammo to go and continue to push this. Wouldn't you rather have that all that work done behind there, so then when you get that vote of confidence, you are ready to go with it and just run with it, instead of having to take more time to get schedules together, find someone that can help you produce it and put all that together? Because by the time you do all of that, your song and the comment that was made and the positivity that could be made there is going to be so diluted over time that it's not going to potentially be worth it as much as nearly it could have been when you would have, if you would have had it ready to go right away and then could capitalize on it literally the next day.
Yep, exactly. And to strip it right back as well, like when I think back to like the previous project that I was in, there were times where there were things that we had as an opportunity that we could have gone for, and I'm glad that we didn't, and that instead we took our time and we honed our skills, and we got to a certain point where we then circled back to do things. Because when I think back to that, we could have wasted an opportunity. That's
Mm.
worst case scenario is you do get you make it through the filtering system and you had something that wasn't quite ready, or you weren't quite ready to put out into the public domain yet, and then somebody of that influence or of that level in the industry hears it, and then that's that first impression gone.
Mhm.
You don't get a second chance to do that, so you want that first impression to really hit so that that person goes away and then they want to support you and they want to become an active proponent in propelling your career forward. And if you've put something through that even you as a band aren't necessarily 100% happy with, even if you rushed it because you wanted to get in front of us, I'd never advise that, because you do that and you might mess up that one opportunity. And it's much better to take your time and hone what you've got, so that when you come to the table, you've got something that you are like 100% behind and 100% proud of, and you're giving yourself the best possible chance then.
That's another thing I'm a huge proponent of on this podcast and with artists as well, and they will tell you the same thing. Time is creativity's best friend. When you're trying to be creative and you're trying to make something great and you have to do it in a time constraint, that's when corners get cut. That's when shortcuts are taken, and that's where a lot of mistakes can end up happening. But if you're willing to take the time and really understand what's going on and make it as best as possible, then the release becomes as good as possible. You talked about that on the podcast recently with the band Senna from Germany, where they're ready to release something in October of 2024, but they held back to make sure all their presentation for the music videos were right and they could release it in May of 2025. The music videos and the story behind them are absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad they waited. But also, if they would have put it out in October, when it seems like everybody and their mom is releasing a new album every single Friday, it could have easily gotten lost. Now it's not going to, because it's at a time when not as many people are going to be releasing new music, but people are still wanting new music. So taking the time is something that you absolutely need to do as an artist. And again, maybe it's all of a sudden, you have an opportunity to get on BSBTV and it's a guest that you really want to get in front of, but your song isn't ready. Take a step back, make sure that song gets finished, and then try it again when the song is ready, because then you're going to get the best chance. And maybe it's not the guest that you absolutely wanted to get your music in front of, but maybe the guest that you do get your music in front of is the one that can help you out the most.
Yep, 100%. And just to add to that as well, we have had it where you get an artist and you've got a submission and you're sort of on the fence because it's borderline. And so you decide it will be of benefit to put it on, because they may get some genuinely really helpful constructive feedback, not from us because we're not in that position, but from the from the industry guest. And I have seen it where we have an artist like that happens, and they've put that first release that we were sort of on the fence about forward, but then they come back like 10 shows later and they've completely refined their sound. They're working with a new producer, and both Ben and I just sit there and we're like, wow, well, you've well and truly proven, you've proven yourself. And that is a really cool thing to see, because that is literally like witnessing progression and growth in real time. And there's just something really special about that when you get to watch like the beginning of the artist's trajectory to where they end up with like their latest release. And then just watching that build, that's a rare thing. Like, even from a music fan standpoint, it's rare that you get to see that like growth and that progression happening in real time. So that's another thing that I'm really honored that we've been able to have with BSB, is that we can see that, because we're getting those submissions, and then we can see that first one versus release number 10 and where they end up then. And then often they'll keep coming back for like different guests or different opportunities, so you get to see the next release and the next release, and it's amazing, and you get to see a lot of variety as well.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question, especially off of the successes that you're talking about right now. When it comes to the artists that have come to the show, when it comes to the people that you've gotten these artists out in front of, what are some of the biggest successes that you've had with BSBTV in that regard?
So one of the most recent ones I want to give a shout out. We connected Lives Lost with Life or Death, formerly We Are Triumphant Records. We have Justin Stanek, and he comes and joins us. He's the head of A&R and operations of the label, and he comes and joins us on a semi-frequent basis. He discovered them on the show a little while back. They got into conversations, and that has now gone over the line, and they've been picked up by them. That was amazing to see. Same thing with Surefire. They also signed to Life or Death. We've got a signing that I cannot 100% talk about yet, but it may or may not involve Manic Cat Records. That's all I will say. That is on the horizon. We had a band called Vanitas from the UK in Birmingham. We had the directors of Burn It Down Festival on that particular A&R stream, and Vanitas ended up walking away with the opening slot at Burn It Down Festival the following year. We had a band called Speaking with Spirits from here in the UK. They won a slot at Mangata Festival. And two bands that have signed to Punkerton Records. I mean, the list goes on. And I guess just to kind of like put a fine point on that as well, this is now like it started off as a passion project and something that we both felt was missing and that we wanted to create, but it has turned into something with an A&R capability that I just did not in my wildest dreams foresee. And now we know that that's what it is and that's what it's doing. Like, we want to take that as far as it can possibly go. So we want to like partner up with all the record labels we can, all of the festivals that we can, because the real goal here is to get as many of those artists that come through our ecosystem signed and onto festival lineups. And that, if you were to ask me in a nutshell, what is our mission, that is a big part of it.
And I want to see that happen too, because there are plenty of record labels that are out there that I think of, like Sumerian, Sharp Tone, Epitaph, that could really have a great connection with you guys and just see artists come through and say, hey, we want to check this artist out more. We want to see more of what they have and build the connection off of there. Or the festival side here over here in the US, like the Danny Wimmer Presents festivals. I know they do something similar on their Space Zebra streams, but maybe when you're trying to discover newer artists too, why not go to BSBTV and see what they have? Because that's not only going to get people more into new artists, but it's also going to show you exactly what's out there, what's coming up, and what you might be missing. So why miss out on that? I knew you were going to have a good number of successes to talk about, so I wanted to make sure that those were highlighted. I'm really happy that you highlighted Lives Lost, though, because Tangis has been on the podcast before, so when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I was hoping he was going to say that one, because I wanted to make sure that was known.
He's a great guy. Absolutely. Just one of the best human beings in the music industry by far. And you know, they're a band that we've watched for like the last year or so, and we've just seen their trajectory, and it is just going straight up towards the ceiling like that. It is, and they're going to smash through that ceiling as well. I mean, the fact that they've done that recent collab with Kellen Quinn, you know, that is just a small, tiny taster of what is to come from them. They've got an incredible sound, and I think it's a really refreshing, it's a really refreshing, like a refreshing breath of fresh air. Doesn't really make sense, but it's a breath of fresh air to the metalcore scene at the moment is what they're bringing to the table, in my opinion.
Again, something I'm just happy about to hear, and I'm going to have to bring on Tangis back to the podcast, especially as they continue to release more stuff and get everyone updated on exactly from his perspective how this all went down and how everything came together. I do want to ask you, though, because of course, there is a lot of positivity behind BSBTV right now. You've got a lot of things going. What's coming next?
So there is something that is literally dropping. I can tell you this because it'll be out there when this is live. But 5 p.m. UK today, British summertime, we are partnering up with Workshop Management, which is Josh Terry, who currently manages Mayday Parade, Amberlin, Acceptance, Matt Nathanson, Sad Summer Festival, and a hell of a lot more. And when is this going out?
This will go out probably, I mean, right now we're shooting this on May 2nd, so this will probably go out sometime either late May or early June.
Then next Friday, we are announcing a partnership with Radar Festival in the UK. So yeah, we got a busy few months ahead of us. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be great having Radar on the show. Josh Terry has agreed to come back and be a regular guest as well. So people getting a chance to get onto his radar is like no small thing by any means. I also have confirmation we will be getting Mayday Parade and Anne Boleyn on, so that's going to be super cool, especially to the inner fan in me.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a huge moment. Um, and yeah, just hopefully that the next few months is more of the same is what I hope for.
I'm hoping you guys continue on with that, continue building these partnerships as well, and continuing to get more bands out in front of so many great people. The fact that you're also going to be able to bring on Mayday Parade, I literally had them on the podcast right before the release of Sweet, and then I had Anne Boleyn on in like summer of 2024. So those are two great artists to bring on, because anybody that's going to be listening, everybody's going to be like featured on the playlist. The music videos are going to go through, the songs are going to go through, and hearing those artists give the genuine feedback right then and there, whether it's the guys from Mayday Parade, whether it's the guys from Ammo, even if it's Maddie Mullins as well, that's just going to add so much ammo for a younger artist that potentially maybe just needs that one little bit break, and there it can come right then and there.
Exactly, and that's what I hope happens. I just think, like I say, I always take it back to, I guess selfishly, everybody does that. You always go back to your own experience, because that's your best reference point, isn't it? I guess. But like, I think back to when I had my very first music project and what it would have meant to me to have had like one of my musical idols say something about one of my tracks, especially if it was something positive. Like I would have ridden that high for the rest of the year easily, probably even beyond that. If I'd had somebody like Tom DeLonge, for example, who is one of my dream bucket list guests to get on BSB, will happen one day. If I'd have had him sit there and say something complimentary about one of the songs I'd written, I mean, my life would have been made. It would have been life changing. It sounds really cliche and cheesy, but it just there's something about that, and there's something about like the fact that we're able to facilitate that and do that, that really for me is what it's all about, and it makes everything worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope you get your bucket list guest of Tom DeLonge on. And I'm going to say this year, because if I'm trying to get my bucket list guest on the podcast this year, we got to get your bucket list guest on BSBTV this year.
Let's manifest it.
Well, let's make it happen. I'm hoping for it, but we'll see what happens. But Dan, I know you got to get rolling, but I got one more question I'm going to ask you, and I feel like this might be the toughest question you answered the entire day. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I've asked this question probably for almost 2 years now to every artist I brought on the podcast, for us to get to know new music and for you to get to promote the music that you love. The problem is I'm going to have to limit to 3 so we don't go overboard. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Yep, absolutely. I'd be remiss not to mention them again. I know we were literally just talking about them, but I've got to give a massive shout out to Lives Lost, because everybody needs to go and check out that band literally right now. There's a band from Sweden called Chasing Penguins. Absolutely phenomenal. Anthemic pop punk like you wouldn't believe. They've got like As December Falls vibes. Ooh. Everyone needs to be checking them out, streaming them on Spotify. Just give them all the plays. And there's a band from the UK called Keeper, who have like a sound that is almost like Don Broco-ish, but it's got elements of Enter Shikari in there. But there's also like this really cool, like nostalgic pop punk sound to it as well. And I mean, they've played Hometown Festival in the past, and I've seen them live. Absolutely phenomenal live, as well as the studio versions. Just an incredible artist.
I thought that was going to be super tough for you to go through with how much new music you see every day, how many great artists you see every day, and you just rail it off like it was nothing. Beautiful.
I guess over time you build up favorites, rightly or wrongly. And this is why, just super quickly, this is why when it comes to like the decision factors behind the show, the way that we do things is it's 50% viewer led and 50% industry led. So the guest gets 50% of the power, the viewers get the other 50% of the power, because it just simply would not be fair. It would be incredibly biased to have me or Ben be involved in that process, because you do get favorites. It's just human. So if you can make that as fair as you possibly can, in my opinion, I think the best way is to leave it to the industry and leave it to the people watching.
Oh, yeah. And then when you brought up, it's just like those ones just stand out to you. It's just, you create those connections with them. If someone were to ask me every single day, like, can you name 3 artists? I'd probably cycle through the same 10 and then just constantly go through them because I've been doing this for over 6 years. I've seen the growth of a good number of bands and I love seeing it. So I want to put it out there as much as possible.
100%, man. 100%.
Well, Danny, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. I do want to close this episode out with 3 things. So first things first, everybody, make sure you go and check out BSBTV. I'm going to have everything for them linked in the description of the podcast, where you can find them on social media, where you can watch them on Twitch, where you can find them on their website, and you can discover everything from there. It's going to be as easy as possible. Go down there, click the link, and go. I'll have it labeled for you, so you don't have to do any of the searching. I got you covered on that. So just go follow along with them, join them, become a part of BSBTV every single week. And ooh, yeah, it's a good time. Now it's time for number 2, Danny. Whenever guests the podcast or on the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise, a way to say thank you. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I wish to continue to support you in the future. Typically, I always go with the first time I see a band play live because I usually bring artists on the podcast, but this one I have to tweak. So whenever I get a chance to meet you for the first time, don't know where, don't know when, but the promise is first round's on me.
Hell yeah. I'm down for that. Let's go drinking.
Ooh, I like that mindset already. Hell yeah. But now it's time for number 3.
Hell yeah.
As we bring this conclusion, I cannot end this by saying goodbye. This is way too final if I say it that way. I made you a promise beyond that, though. We're going to continue to watch the rise of BSBTV, and maybe in another year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 6 months, who knows? Maybe we'll bring you back on and we'll see just how crazy this whole entire adventure that BSBTV has gotten.
I'd love to come back. Honestly, I've had a great time.
Perfect. I love hearing that. Well, Danny, this cannot be goodbye then. I'm going to end it like I always do. I'll see you later.
Cheers, man.
Woo! Well, folks, I'm interviewing with Danny from BSBTV. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. Holy shit. This is that platform that you've been waiting for. So everyone that said, oh, I miss MTV, or I wish MTV was back, anything like that. No. This is what you need. This is the kind of platform you need. You need BSBTV. I love the fact that Danny and his partner Ben even went from bar talk that ended up creating this. Of course, it started out one way, but then bringing the A&R concept into it, bringing in that music industry connection, connecting new artists with people that can move and shake and make things happen is absolutely insane. And the fact that they're doing it in this way, that not only you can, maybe get a little bit priority if you want to pay a little bit, but it's not expensive at all. Like I said, to be in continuous rotation all year on BSBTV Plus is £96. To get priority for a specific guest, I think they said it was £50, and that makes sure you can get on there. And you can submit for free too. You can have fun with that too. And I love also the fact that not only did Danny tell you exactly what they're looking for in terms of sound quality, because every song's going to be different. Your sound's going to be different. But knowing that you should have a pretty, having that complete version of the song, fully produced and everything ready to go. Because if you get that opportunity, now you don't have to go back and rework it. You don't have to go back and do anything with it. You can just send it and go, and you are ready to go. Do not miss out on that time window. Do not miss out on BSBTV if you're a younger artist. This is something you need to be a part of. And I'm so happy you're able to bring it to the podcast. So I want to thank Danny. When it comes to BSBTV, go straight to the podcast. We'll link symbols for everything and where to find them online, where to see their website, where to follow them on social media, and of course, where to stream BSBTV on Twitch and become a part of the family. Also, be sure to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Links to the podcast below. Hit that subscribe button to subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast. Hit the like button right down here as well if you're on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, hit the like, follow button, subscribe button, whichever one it is. Enjoy, because God, we're going to be continuing to bring you stuff like this every single Tuesday and Thursday, like we always have. So thank you guys, and that's going to be from me. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. So big, healthy, and hearty. See y'all.